Hi, I'm Christina,
And I'm Matt.
and this is New Ways Podcast. Today, we have a themed episode.
We do.
We are talking about New Year's resolutions, because
Yes,
New Year's
we
is
are.
right around the corner.
It sure is. And I'm very excited to get into today with you because I know when I was laying on your apartment floor and figuring out how to put together today's episode, we discussed a lot of different things that were really cool. But more importantly, you got us hats.
Duh, you gotta celebrate.
I know. So
We have hats and fake champagne
We do.
and blankets and a
We
fire.
do. We have Martinelli's today as our fake champagne, and it is awesome. I haven't had Martinelli's in forever. I think it's been like many years.
I've never had this, and it's actually
You never had
delicious.
Martinelli's?
No.
It's like a Midwest staple.
Well, I'm from the Midwest, and I've
I
never
know.
had it.
Well, I don't know. I always had it growing up. It's weird.
Not gonna lie though, this is probably besides obviously talking to a microphone in a studio with you.
Yeah.
This is the vibe of how I probably spent a majority of my New Year's.
Yeah.
Like at home, chilling with a blanket.
Oh yeah, and we got
some
blankets today.
Good drink, some good
I know.
food.
I'm very excited.
The holiday vibes.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So let's kind of get started then, unless you have anything else you want to say about New Year's. No.
Okay. No, I'm good to go. Pretty.
Okay. So let's get started then. We're talking about New Year's resolutions. When you think about New Year's resolutions, what do you think of?
A phenomenal reset.
Okay.
Call it a reset.
You call it a
I
reset?
call it a reset.
Okay. What do you mean a reset though?
I think it's just like, in a way, a lot of people really struggle with the idea of like starting something new at the end of the year. And so, in a way, we're all encompassed by time. And so if, the January 1st is that day to start something new, sounds good. Put it into perspective, put it into light, put it into goal form, whatever it means for you. And then be able to just formulate from there and keep going.
Yeah.
So I think so I'd say that that's kind of what, New Year's means to me. It's just a great way to just reset and figure out what's going to be good for you moving forward and how you're going to get there. So what about you though?
So I do, anytime anybody wants to better themselves or set a goal, I just love that in general. If you need the excuse of a new year to do it, by all means run with it. But like everything else, I have a love-hate relationship with New Year's resolutions because part of me is like, you wanted to do this 6 months ago. Why are you waiting for the new year to do it? You should have started it 6 months ago. I feel like people do use it as an excuse sometimes to put things off. But I do, once again, if you want to start a new thing and the New Year's is your excuse to do it, fuck yes, go with it. Also, I will admit, it is kind of nice to use that as like a start date because I didn't even do this intentionally, but my first like time being in California and staying here, because the first time I came here and ended up staying, here we are today, was actually the first week of January. So now when I think about how long I've actually been here, it's very easy for me to remember how long it's been.
Yeah.
So I do like the idea. It's a nice time to start because then it's really easy to keep track of your progress and when you did start. And if that's your motivation, great. But my biggest thing is like, that's why I also don't like holidays. I'm like, if you want to show up for your family members and like be there the other 365 days a year. I'm like, you don't have to have a New Year's Day to start something new in your life.
Yeah.
So love, hate. But in this note, I feel like having a New Year's resolution is such a big thing for so many people.
For sure. I think also too, the one thing that I talked to you a bit about today and is something that I sort of observed myself and realized I was like, that's an interesting thought, was that, we have Thanksgiving and then 4.5 weeks later we have Christmas. And so we have the two most stressful holidays sort of back to back. And so I could see why people use the new year as a literal reset, as being able to kind of cleanse the palate of everything that had gone on, because Thanksgiving can be a lot with family or even by yourself or with friends. And then vice versa. Also, Christmas can be the exact same thing. And it's even worse when you have to do it twice, with the same family or the same people or same friend, whatever, So I think,
What do
and
you mean
that's,
by having to do it twice?
well, because you have to spend Thanksgiving sometimes with your family, and then you have to do it again for Christmas. I know a
Oh,
lot of people
true.
that have to do both. And so that's like, can be a lot for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh, I have to put up with, XYZ once, and I have to do it twice in the
Also,
span
too,
of
I
4 weeks.
I cannot agree with you more that the holidays are so stressful. And part of me is just like the consumerism of it is insane. The obligations of it is insane. People are stressing themselves out. The whole point of the holidays is to like realize how much you have and
Yeah.
how grateful you are to have the people around you. So as much as we do talk about like the negative tones to the holidays, I will say though, like they're a beautiful time of year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you do get to actually enjoy spending time with the loved ones that you don't see too frequently, hopefully. A lot of people look to the time off. It's winter season. That's when you're supposed to kind of like, I guess, put on a little bit of weight and just relax and like chill. All these
Mhm.
other species choose to hibernate all winter. Like
Yep.
we can chill for a little bit, I guess.
No, agreed. And I mean, I love the Christmas time of year, especially for the ambiance. There's nothing better than seeing some, lights on a tree, or, just like a nice fire, and just being able to cozy up either with, your favorite person, favorite book, or,
Mm-hmm.
just whatever makes you happy. And being able to also celebrate that as well is also graciously and very important as well.
Definitely. And Christmas is a big thing for me too, because it's my
Yes.
birthday. You guys, I turned 30 this year, not to spill the beans.
Happy
But
early birthday.
anyways, thank you. So, anyways, back to New Year's resolutions, I guess. I feel many people, just off the top of my head, many people, their New Year's resolution, I feel like, is like, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
I want to start a new job. I want to take that trip. How do you suggest people go about finding resolutions if they don't know what they want their resolution to be?
Yeah, agreed. I think the thing is I'll say this again time and time, because throughout this will be a theme of today's podcast, but start small. Start with the small goals, figuring out
But what if they don't even know their small goals yet?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the thing is like, then oftentimes then you can kind of sort of do a lot of reflection, figuring out sort of where you were and where you are right now and where you want to be. And so I take a lot of those things into consideration. And also too, a lot of people are like, man, but I don't even know what those goals are. And I'm like, that's okay. So let's figure out then how you want things to change for next year. What were some things this year that maybe didn't go as well? What were some things that weren't so great? Well, I didn't really love my job. Okay, do you want to change that job, or do you want to change something inside your current job? So, okay, well, maybe I want to change something inside my current job. Okay, is it the people or is it the actual work? Well, it's the people. Okay, so you know what I mean? So then you can sort of, you can sort of break it down into what sort of is going to help you formulate the best ability to find the answer you're looking for to help, quote unquote, start that new year and reset. So that's where like my main sort of advice would come in for that.
Yeah, I really love how you emphasized on like think about where you are, where you have been, where you are, and where you want to go.
Yeah.
Because I feel like as much as humans, we're so focused either on the past or the future, we forget the present oftentimes and how we're feeling in the moment. So I really like to just take a beat right now and be like, how do I feel right now? Is there anything in this moment that in the future I want to address? But also, I think reflection is such a big thing because it's so easy also to forget previous things in your life that you've learned.
Yeah.
So I like to use this time of year oftentimes to like see how far I've came, what are things that I liked and disliked. Because just taking that inventory a lot of times, though, too, even coming up with any type of goal can seem scary. But when you realize how much you've done in the past, then it makes this other thing not seem so scary often.
Yeah.
And in regards to setting like New Year's resolutions, a lot of people might even be like, I kind of like where I'm at. I don't know if I need a resolution, and that's completely okay too. I love how you love where you're at, but also if you can think of little things where you just want to show, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be simply showing up for yourself more. It can be like, I want to be more curious about who I am. I don't know. I think resolutions, they don't have to be a major thing. It can just be a minor thing, but any opportunity to just show up and better yourself, you're right, take the tinier steps. Because I feel like oftentimes too, when people see this big vision that they want to go to, it seems so far out of reach. So taking those tinier steps makes it a little bit easier. And also, my biggest thing is I feel like fitness, like everyone's like, I'm going to go to the gym. That's why gym memberships skyrocket around New Year's
For
is
sure.
the biggest thing. Why do you think, though? I'm asking this as a question. Why do you
Hmm.
think throughout the year so many people stop going? And you see the gyms, they're always packed in January and they slowly like trickle down.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's lack of motivation is the biggest one. It's also
Mm.
like it's hard to stay fit. I
Is
don't
it?
It is. Yeah, because the thing is like you have a million things going on, right? People get stressed out and then they go back to old eating habits, and then also they feel like they don't find time to go to the gym because they have XYZ going on. And so the thing is for a lot of people they end up creating excuses, or they have life events that go on that make it just harder to go to the gym. And so then they don't make time for it
Mhm.
because it doesn't become a priority anymore. Because then turning around, the negative emotions, negative feelings become a higher priority than, say, working out or doing something different that's new because it's hard and you're not getting the results you want right away. All those things are like contemplate and formulate, or all those things sort of stack on top of each other and can really kind of create this like negative sense of what it means to, work out, I guess.
Mhm. I do agree with that, but in my head, when I feel like you're like people have other things coming up, that's why I'm like, you have to make it a priority. To me, all those other things are kind of excuses.
Yeah.
And then I also hear though too, like people, their comfort is more of a priority to them. But I'm like, do you want to know what to me is uncomfortable? Like I haven't worked out this week as much as I normally do, and it's uncomfortable for me to sit with myself knowing that I didn't give myself 110% of what I could have been doing. I do believe in give yourself some grace, and there's periods for that. But that's why also too, when considering New Year's resolutions, like, and you know what you want your New Year's resolution to be, right?
Yeah.
I then set yourself up for success and look at your beliefs and your values, because like you have to get an idea of why you want that thing besides just being like, I want to get in shape to like look better. Think about all the other things and why you're doing it. Because when you actually know your why behind things, I feel like it makes it easier to show up.
Hmm.
So, like, if you want to get in shape because you want to be there long enough to like just live longer, you know what I mean? You want to be able to climb that mountain with like your child one day. Those are all motivating factors to me. It's just like you do have to make the motivating factor big enough to do something. Or a lot of times that's why I feel like we fall short, is because we forget why we're doing things.
Hmm.
Or like it's limiting belief where like, I don't know, I'm just too tired. I don't think I'll ever get in shape. This isn't working right away. It's
Yeah.
like having faith in the process also. But a way I feel like people can kind of conquer that aspect of setting New Year's resolutions is, to me, kind of, I feel like making a plan. And I'm not saying plans don't change. They definitely do. I feel like you should be open to new ways of doing things because you never know the blessings in disguise that are going to come.
Hmm.
But making a plan and writing things down on paper is, in a way, like telling yourself, I'm committing to this. I know where I want to go. So this is kind of my roadmap. Let me see if I can follow it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes people set goals and then they get unmotivated by the fact that they simply just don't know how to achieve them.
Hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. No, I do.
Like, how would you go about if somebody's like, I really have this goal in mind and I want to do it? How do you think you would suggest them going about it to stay consistent with it? Because everybody in the moment, they're like, yes, this is a great idea. I'm going to do it. But it's in those weak moments where people don't feel like doing it, or something else comes up, or it seems too far out of reach where they lose
Yeah.
faith in the process.
Um, I do this for myself. I remind myself that free will exists, and then you can do something, or you don't have to do something. Like you make the choice. You're an adult. You get to make that, decision for yourself and what's going to work for you.
Yeah,
I think that showing up for yourself is, I think, one of the hardest things that you can personally do. And
I agree.
so being able to show up for yourself is already difficult. And so recognizing that, knowing that not every day is going to be perfect, but so I think also too, when I look at that, people tell me, they're like, I want to lose 15 pounds. It's my New Year's resolution. I was like, awesome. I love that. Okay, but here's the thing is that rather, instead of focusing on the weight, You want to focus on consistency, like you were saying. Sounds good. Let's go to the gym twice a week. Let's just make that a priority. Just go to the gym twice a week. And we'll do that for 2 or 3 months. And then we'll see how you're feeling. Don't focus on the weight. Just focus on the consistency of trying something new. So I think that's the thing, is so many people go and they want to try new things or do something new, or they want to get rid of old habits, but then they get into the cycle of that old habit again, or cycle into the negative thoughts and beliefs simply just because they aren't getting the immediate results they want. And the consistency is difficult with anything that you do.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were talking about, they said the most successful people in the world are the ones who can do something consistently, you know, regardless of what
I was
is.
talking to like a business coach, I guess. He coaches like new influencers, new people in business, on how to promote their stuff. And he's like, honestly, business is kind of oftentimes just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Because like that's how you build something beautiful. And that's why also too, I encourage people where it's like, if you don't feel like it, I get that. Give yourself some grace. I do believe in rest days. If you really just had a shitty day, sometimes it's just like give yourself that space. But what I've noticed works for me at least is even if you don't feel like doing it, and I do get like one of the 4 agreements is like if you're going to do anything, do it with your all. But sometimes it's just like you being consistent. If like, for instance, I don't want to go to the gym today, I'm just going to drive there, show up. If I do a little workout, not like my 100%, that still counts as something, and you still showed up for yourself too. You know what I mean? I feel like it's gauging how you feel and going about it in a way that respects you, and just allowing yourself to be like, I can do this really helps.
And also too, I mean, let's talk about, you know, like we don't even like, you know, I think that like, exercise and fitness, yes, it's important. Health and wellness, obviously, that's what our podcast is built on, is important. But a huge thing too that I wanted to also discuss today is, you know, a lot of people too, for New Year's resolutions, don't have any of these things, but rather instead they may have, I want to find new friends, or I want to build a community, or I want to try something new. And I think that those can be really scary for some people, especially who are introverts. And, you know, I'm an extroverted introvert. So I like to have moments where I'm outgoing, but then there's a lot of moments where I'm very internal, and I keep it internal. So meeting new people, it's like, it can be like a push-pull situation where you're very excited to like meet new people because you want new experiences, but also you're very nervous because it's something new, and you don't know how people are going to be, or you don't know how people are going to respond. So I think also too is that when you're trying to make new friends or build communities, finding those things that make you happy. I always say, look inside you, find the hobbies, find the things that make you excited, try something new, try something different.
I love that you said that, but automatically in my head too, I'll ask people, because a lot of times people are like, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like this. I don't like that. I wish I had more excitement in my life. So I'll ask them. I'm like, well, what do you like to do? And so many people are like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what I like to do.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. But I completely understand that too. And my biggest advice, or my best advice I can give anyone, I feel like, is just how you find new goals and ways to like learn in life and thrive. Because let's be honest with you, if you're lucky, you get the privilege of learning your entire life. Like that's how we grow. I like to say all the time, unfortunately, if you stop learning, you stop growing. It's kind of like you're already dead before you're dead.
Yep.
Because that's what we're here. Like we're here to evolve. Be curious about who you are. Like if you don't know what to pursue, start pursuing yourself. And a lot of times that's when you find goals and things that intrigue you and the people who are going to be right for you.
Yep.
So in regards to that though, it's just so many people are like, I don't know what I like, or I don't know who I want to surround myself with. It's just start with the basics. Like, what did you used to like when you were a child? Oftentimes I'll go to, or like what intrigues you. Most of us have like a favorite TV show, or a favorite little hobby that we like to do. I'm like, you like to cook? Go to a cooking class. You might meet new friends there.
Yeah.
You like watching these singing episodes or these singing competitions online. Like, as scary as it might seem, go to a singing class. You know what I mean? That's how I feel like we find new ways to excel in our life and get a little bit more excitement and find people who truly resonate with us. And oftentimes, like those, we've talked about this all the time, is when you engross yourself in things you like, the people are also there doing the same things that you like too. So just by nature, being around those type of people, you are a product of your environment. You're going to start to like learn new things just naturally.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think people think that learning needs to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's tedious, and that's why we get so discouraged at first too. But it's like, it really doesn't. As long as you're curious and you find something that you think you might like, if you don't like it, then you can always walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said you have to stay in anything forever.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to change something, like staying in that forever isn't really serving you either. So I always just encourage people, like, be curious. I'm sure you can agree. Like, let me ask you this. Why did you decide to become a therapist?
Oh, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
You know, I knew a lot of people in my past life, and I call it my past life just simply just because I feel like I've changed so much as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was just my past experiences. But in my past life, I dealt with a lot of people who really did not know how to talk about their feelings,
Mm-hmm.
did not know how to talk about emotions. And I had people in my life who sadly ended up ending their life over it, and they committed suicide. And I think about those moments and those people, and I wonder, I was like, man, what could have I done differently? Or maybe even though I'm not responsible for the choices they made, I recognize that the hurt and pain that they were feeling was something that I wish more people would have had access to be able to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized in a lot of the communities that I was living in at the time didn't have that access, you know, and a lot of them still don't. Rural America is struggling when it comes to not only healthcare, but mental health, because there are a lot of communities in rural America are built on very strong foundational values that they're honestly are outdated. And which is, you know, some people function with that, but a lot of people don't. You know, they always have to say you have to be the strongest in the family. You can't, you know, you have to think about everyone else before yourself. You know, you can't, you know, talk about the things that are sad because that makes you look weak. And so I think that, you know, experiencing that made me realize, like, you know what, if I can make a shift and be that person for someone else and save that next life, that made it worth it.
So if I'm hearing correctly, you found something that you like to do, your passion, your career, based on a previous life experience.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's what I mean, is everybody in this world has some type of life experience. You know what I mean? There's none of us that have had no life experiences. And oftentimes if you're just curious, and that's why I'm huge on reflecting too, and you're like, what was one moment that really like set my heart on fire or didn't sit right with me and I wanted to know how to change it, but I didn't know in that moment. A lot of times when people are looking for purpose or ways to improve their life or change, it's there. You just have to be curious and exploring it. Because like when I think about why I'm sitting here talking to you today is because I needed self-help when I was younger and I started pursuing it on my own, but through that I fell in love with it. So that's why it's like, you might not know where anything's going to take you at first, but just being curious and like kind of listening to that silent voice or that uncomfortable feeling oftentimes will lead you to something beautiful and where the growth in your life is meant to be.
Yep.
So that's why I encourage people at least to just be curious when it comes to New Year's resolutions. And also to like, remember, like that's what brings you back to also like your values and your beliefs and your purpose in a way too, is when it's something that actually connects with you and you've lived through, that's your motivating factor.
Yep.
When you like are so sick of doing something one day and you don't want to show up and then you think back to that life event, you're going to be like, this is why I'm doing it.
Yep.
It's because it has that emotional attachment to it. Because I do believe in order for any of us to really pursue anything, we have to have some sort of emotional attachment to it. Other than that, we're just going about life doing things like a robot. And that's usually the cases where you find people who are unhappy with their life or they don't feel like they have a purpose or meaning.
Also, too, I know one thing that we talked about was how frustrating it can be to stick to that goal. And so a big thing that I would also love to talk about is compassion and patience in regards to these goals. Because I think so many people struggle with being compassionate towards themselves.
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
also just patient and recognizing that instant gratification is something that our culture has
It's such a big
lived on,
thing.
especially in the past 15 years, and with the way the world works now, it is how it is. And so recognizing that that culture is a part of your existence, but it doesn't have to define you, but moving on and figuring out like, all right, so if these are my goals, how am I going to get there and how am I going to have the patience to get to that goal?
Ooh. I think that's probably like the first step though, is acknowledging that like things do take time. It's kind of like we talk about back to this again, not to be that person, but going to the gym,
Yeah.
right? Like at first, and it's so weird though, too, because it's such a concept in life that a lot of times what actually does make you stronger feels like it's making you weaker at first. It's like when you're lifting that weight, you feel weak after doing it 5 times. You're like, this sucks. But then when you keep doing it, you're actually getting stronger. I think it's just realizing that things do take time. When you think about like we live in a microwave generation, we want everything right now. Like what kind of pizza would you actually want? One that's in the microwave or one that's in the oven? The one that's in the oven is going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to be like twice as delicious. You got that crispy crust, it's everything you want. The microwave's going to be soggy and half-assed, let's be honest. So that's why I'm
Don't
like
be hating on my Tostitos pizza rolls.
they're better in the oven though, aren't they?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, even if it's just like not my ideal type of food, it's still better in the oven. And I think realizing that though things do take time, but also, and this is just my own personal experience, this is why I'm so big on reflecting, is oftentimes too, it's like in that moment, it seems like it's going to take forever. But a lot of times when you look back on things, it does happen faster than you think.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we can all kind of agree that it seems like time is moving extremely fast nowadays because we just live in a fast-paced world.
Yep.
So realize that even if your goal seems like it's taking a while, it's actually probably right around the corner.
Yeah.
But also in regards to giving yourself patience and compassion these days, I'm curious your aspect, because this is something that I want in the new year's, is I really want to go to the next level with our podcast. I really want to start putting out more content, which involves me working a little bit harder,
Yeah.
being a little bit more present and creatively thinking.
Yeah.
But also based on what I've been going through the last few months of this year, where my therapist has been encouraging me to rest and give myself some grace and time. How would you consider like mixing the two? People still want to excel, but they still want to be kind to themselves. I feel like that's something a lot of people do struggle with.
Yeah.
Is because we're oftentimes told that in order to succeed, things have to be hard. You have to grind. You have to show up every single day, work these long hours. But it's like that's also not necessarily being nice to yourself. But then if you're too nice to yourself, you don't show up.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So
Agreed.
how would you go about that?
So everyone is different, right? Every person and how they choose to, cope and handle their emotions. And that's all up to them. That being said, I love a good schedule. And the reason for that is because if you mess up one day, it's okay. We can just move it to the next day. So I always tell people, I'm like, if you're working crazy hours and, you're very stressed out, you'd feel like you don't have any ever time for yourself. You can, if you actually sit out and write your schedule on a day-to-day basis and then look back, you can find gaps to where you'll be able to take time for yourself. Now, some people are like, that's impossible because, it can't happen because of XYZ. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I said, but here's the thing. Have you ever listened to an audiobook in a car before? Like, have you ever driven?
But I know a lot of people have, or I'll listen to podcasts, or I'll even edit like this, even though I know I probably shouldn't. I'll edit the podcast when I'm in the car. I'll listen to it and just take note of the times where I notice something that needs to be tweaked.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Like there's ways to.
I just love car rides and being able to, if you're just like someone who is, driving to work in the mornings, taking that 10 minutes to really just sort of be with yourself. And be intentional about those 10 minutes. I know that some people also hate driving because of road rage and just dumb drivers, and I
Mm-hmm.
totally get that. And then if that's the case, then find those 10 minutes, if elsewhere, if that's, during your lunch break, or that's, when you're walking back to your car, whatever it is, it can be so small,
Mm-hmm.
so small. If it means just inhaling 7, hold 7, and then breathing out 7, and those, 7 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a great way to, it's a great way to always start.
I agree. In some things, because also too, when you think about that, that also involves a lot of like strategic planning in a way, because you're like looking at things, you're using brain
Yeah.
capacity. And some people, I'm even guilty of this recently, where I'm just like, I don't even have the brain energy to like do that. That seems excessive. Like, how am I going to gauge how I feel on
Yeah.
a like hourly, day by day basis? Because that's the thing, and we've recently discussed too, that a lot of times when you're going through stuff or you just feel unmotivated, it's hard to know when you're going to get that energy to do something again.
Yeah.
Or like vice versa, you never know when you're going to have a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I need a break right now.
Yeah.
So
This may sound tone deaf, but I will say too, one thing that has
what?
actually worked, and I didn't think that this would ever work, but I just started waking up a half hour earlier.
Why does that sound tone deaf?
Well, because some people don't have the opportunity to always just like get up a half hour
And it
earlier.
seems hard though.
And
It
it is hard.
does.
It is super hard. But that being said,
Try it though, because sometimes it's not actually as hard as you
it's so
think.
awesome. I
I
love
know.
it because now it's part of my schedule, and now I get a half hour to myself in the mornings.
What do you
And
do in that
it's
half hour?
funny enough, I'm people say don't do this, but I do it because it's one of the only times during the day where I actually like am able to do this. I'm really picking at my shoe. I'm like, just anyways.
So what is that?
Okay, sorry.
What do you do in the morning?
ADHD. I like to actually look up the news. I go on like MSNBC.
People also say you're not supposed to start the
CNN.
day
You're
with
not. You're
that.
not.
Because
But
it's supposed to leave like a negative
correct.
overtone,
Yes.
undertone in your day.
I know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I do compartmentalize really well when it comes to like recognizing that like we had a whole episode on what we can and cannot control. I cannot control the outcomes of the election. I cannot control right now, personally, like on the notion myself at 6:30 in the morning right now, I cannot control what is going on currently in Western Europe right now.
No, you
But
can't.
or I'm sorry, I cannot control what goes on in Eastern Europe right now and in Russia. But that being said, what I can control is being informed about what is going on in the world. And I think that is something that is important. I am someone that likes to be informed on what's going on in the world. And
Do you
what
actually believe what they're telling you?
I mean, I'm not gonna.
Okay, we
I'm
don't
not
have to go
gonna.
on that.
We're
That
not gonna
was
get on conspiracy
kind of
theory,
a joke, kind of not. But
right?
continue. Sorry.
But no, I'll say that like
good for you for trying to stay educated.
yeah, no, I
Yes.
think the thing is like I like to be informed on what's going on in the world and how people are responding to it, and how people react. And the reason why is because as a mental health therapist who also works, a lot in schools and in people's homes, a lot of these impacts, or a lot of these things that are impacting the world also like affect my clients, and how they see the world and so a lot of things get brought up and they're like, oh yeah, this happened. I'm really stressed because of this. And I think this stress from that I'm feeling, then I took it out on my kid because this was going on, but I also have this and this, and so we have a lot of different conversations about a lot of different things. So it's very important to just always, I feel like, to be aware of what's going on in the world, even if it does or does not affect you.
Okay. So that's what you use your mornings for.
Yeah.
Okay. Respect that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that's where
it's my yoga.
I get, because if I wake up, sometimes I wake up earlier. Lately, my days have just been so different. Typically, I do like to wake up earlier to meditate because that really starts my day. But it's so weird though. Days where I wake up early, I'm not the person like, I try to stay away from social media, my phone, the TV as much as possible first thing in the morning. That's just always something that I've practiced. And it's weird though, because every single day when I have a few minutes, not every single day, but every morning when I do have a few extra minutes to spare, when I just sit there and think to myself, today's going to be a good day, today's going to be a good day, today's going to be a good day. It's so weird though, because oftentimes, even if I do feel shitty that day, it seems like things go a little smoother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just me putting that thought subconsciously in myself, so things seems like it's going smoother. I don't know if it's me telling the universe I want things to go smoother, but oddly enough, when I do that in the morning, that does work for me.
Yeah.
And in regards to kind of still being able to stay committed to what you need to do in order to succeed and thrive in the world, and also your New Year's resolutions. If you just don't feel like doing it, or you're going through a rough patch and something's came up and you're emotionally withdrawn or just exhausted, something that I've been trying to embrace and I've been encouraged to embrace is it's like, once again, we don't want to hide emotions here. We don't, because a lot of times repressed emotions come up later in a worse form. But bringing them with you and still doing the thing even when you aren't feeling up to it, but being like not mad at yourself for doing it, because I feel like that's where burnout comes from,
Mm-hmm.
is when you stress yourself out about like, I'm stressed, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm whatever type of emotion, and I'm doing this. Like, that's where you get conflicting. But what I've been encouraged to do is still get up and do the thing. Nobody is saying that you have to be a rock star today, right? Nobody is saying that you have to go above and beyond if that's what you normally do. Just do what you have to get done. Still show up for yourself, because then you can be proud for showing up. You're still doing what you have to get done.
Yeah.
Because you don't also want to like we all have responsibilities. You don't want to like necessarily rug anything you have to do.
Yeah.
Or be considered unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
Do the bare minimum and just bring that part of yourself with you.
Yep.
Is what I've been like trying to embrace. That's why even in this oncoming year, it's like I'm really just trying to make space for all walks of life, all emotions, and all possibilities. You know, and that's how also it's just like, yes, there are going to be days where you want to stay home, but once again, you go to that class, you go to the gym, you go to that one friend you might not have wanted to see today. You never know what you're actually going to get from it.
Yeah.
Chances are it might give you energy if it's something you really like, but at least you can say you showed up, you did it. And like, it's consistency.
Yep.
Consistency is how you form habits. So
Yeah.
the next thing you know, we're here next January, you're looking back and I'm like, wow, I really did the thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't want people to go balls to the wall the first month, be burnt out, and then just give up. And it's just, then you're constantly just letting yourself down in a way. Do the best that you can and just continue to do it.
Yep.
You don't have to be a rock star all the time. And some days you're going to be too, which is great.
Yep.
But I think it's just consistency and realizing where you're at and why you want it, and reminding yourself why you want it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a part of the consistency too, I know a big stressor for people is comparison, because we talk about this
everybody
often.
wants to be everybody else or doing what everybody else is doing.
You know, and it's like, man, just focus on you, because I think
comparison is like the biggest killer of dreams, to be honest with you.
It is, you know, and the thing is I can, you know, even relate this to my personal life, where I'm like, man, funny enough, I compare myself to myself. So I do this a lot.
That's not bad though, because you ever hear the phrase though, you're only in competition with yourself?
Yeah, you do, but I sort of take it up a notch, and I'm like, oh, I'm not working, you know, X amount of hours this week.
You do be doing a lot, man.
I will be like, and I'm like, wait, but I didn't do enough for the podcast this week, or I didn't do enough into this, or like, and I get very analytical with numbers. And you and I have talked about this. And but the thing is like, I always have to remind myself to always take a step back and just be like, here in the moment, here in the present. This is what I can do. This is what I can.
Well, that's
control.
one of the reasons I got rid of my Apple Watch. I started like 2 years ago, the new year, with an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to track my steps. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I realized though that was actually leading into like a toxic obsession with always trying to do one more. And it was stressing me out more than it needed to. So I still continued my fitness journey, just without the expectation of numbers and that like constantly trying, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like self-criticism in a way.
I had to get rid of
Don't criticize yourself either, please.
No, truly. I also had to
applaud yourself for trying, but continue. Matt just gave me the stink eye. Go ahead, you what?
Anyways. No, I'll say that I had to get rid of my Apple Watch, not because of the steps, but because it told me to breathe. It said your heart rate's too high. You need to calm down. Do you know how many? And it's like you need to take a breath. Except the problem is it would do it like every 30 minutes, because I just naturally have a higher heart rate because I'm just going all the time. And a part of it's my ADHD, so I'm just like, and that's just how I work. And I totally sounded like a sheep there for a second.
I agree with your
But,
Apple Watch.
you know, I do. Like, I am a casually, like, I am
A breath is so nice.
a breath is nice, but I also am just a naturally anxious person. So the thing is, but my Apple Watch couldn't read that. But the important part is like recognizing that just because that's how I naturally am doesn't mean that that's like I don't need to like fix that for a piece of technology that's like telling me to like slow down. But his problem is it was telling
There's
me
probably
like,
some like
it was telling
good
me like
insight from that though. I feel like we could all benefit a little bit from slowing down
well,
sometimes.
I
Can
mean,
we
but
not?
it's the no, not when you're in my environment because you have a lot going on and you
So
like
was it only doing it when you were with the kids, not like when you were
100%.
chilling at home on the couch?
Correct.
Okay.
So I can't just like oh, let me just take a deep breath while like I have like a you know, like a screaming kid or like a really frustrated adult
I
or
get
like
that.
dealing with something. I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. My Apple Watch told me to breathe. Let me just take a second." You know, no. You can't just wait. Are you going to do that if like someone's dying on the ICU table?
No, of course not.
Exactly. If your heart rate's going up and you're taking care of people, right? And those are stressful situations. You're not just gonna be like, "Oh, I need to take a breather."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I got rid of my
That's
Apple
true.
Watch.
I
Because like
thought you
mine
meant
would
like when you were sitting on the couch, it was telling you to breathe, and I'm like,
no.
okay. but yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Where I do see where Apple Watches can be good too, but I digress. The thing with comparison is though, is any New Year's resolution, in my opinion, that's based around like creativity or like trying to learn something new, please don't compare yourself to somebody who's been doing this also for like 10 years because that's just going to make you discouraged. Everybody sees the final product, right? But nobody actually sees those years and years where they were not this all-star of a person doing what they do. You never actually really know where somebody is on their journey and at what point they're at. So it's really easy to look at a bodybuilder in the gym and see how jacked they are and just like their physique's so put together and so lean. And you want to be like that, and you've been going to the gym now for like 6 months and you don't look like that. Like you never know how long somebody's actually been working on something. So I feel like track your own progress.
Yep.
And just use yourself as like a guide to do that. Also, when it comes to creative things, you're like, I want to paint, I want to write a book, I want to do this. Anything that involves you kind of stepping into your true natural self and bringing that to the table, there's a reason you are the way that you are. You're not supposed to be like other people.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of being creative. So comparing yourself to other artists or other people in a creative space, or even when it comes to a conversation, like the whole reason we're all different is to bring new insights to conversations. Comparing yourself to somebody else is really doing yourself a disservice because accepting yourself and realizing we're all unique for our own reason, like that's the beautiful part of it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's the killers because no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be this other person. That's physically impossible. There's always going to be something different about you. So embrace it, track your progress, and celebrate your little victories and how far you have came.
I love doing the mind shift from comparison to curiosity. And so when you go from comparison to curiosity, I love being able to come in with the mindset of asking people how they did it.
I love asking people how they did things.
And how you created your success and how you've been able to build yourself. And, you know, I even like, I mean, gosh, I'll never forget this. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I saw this like guy at the gym that was just absolutely jacked. And I was like, I want to look like that one day. And I went up to him. I was like, how'd you do that? And he was like, he's like, well, I am here for 2 hours a day from 5 to 7 a.m. every single day, 4 days a week. Or like, you know, for 40 days. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, he's like, yeah, I follow like a strict regimen. And then he went and he got but it was funny because he actually got very excited in a way to talk about it because you could tell that he was passionate about it.
I feel like a lot of people that have done something are usually excited to share how they did it.
Yeah. And I love people because I'm a very curious person by nature. And so when I love asking questions and getting answers from people that are just like so left field because everyone does something different, even if they all come to the same conclusion. And so I think that that's also a lot of fun too. And it makes phenomenal conversation
It
starters.
does.
It also can make phenomenal friends too in the meantime, because, and it's also a great way to like build your people skills.
Yeah.
Is
And also
coming
accomplish the goal
curious.
that you want to accomplish because
Exactly.
somebody's already done it.
Yep.
So it's like you already kind of know how to go about it. I love that curiosity
Yeah.
instead of comparison.
Yep.
Because then when you go up and ask somebody, you're not kind of like being envious or jealous or comparing yourself. You're genuinely building a relationship so you can build each other up.
Yep.
I love that outlook on it so much.
That's why I'm here, you guys.
Yeah, you don't have to, with so many things, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't.
Yep.
Like somebody's going to show you how to do it that's already done it a lot of times. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And then that we talk about from comparison to curiosity. That curiosity then can turn around, and then it's being able to find people who can support you in your goals, because a lot of those people then can help guide you and figure out like what's going to be next for you.
I will say it's a lot easier to stay consistent when you have somebody in your corner.
Truly.
Like I love those friends who, that's why as much as people are like, don't tell anybody what you want to do, I do believe that in certain context.
Yeah.
But if you have really good friends, even if you're not on the same like path, hopefully they're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And even finding somebody who is on the same path and who loves what you're doing also, like they're going to be the ones to motivate you.
Yeah.
It is a lot easier to like get up and do something when you have somebody dragging your arm being like, come on, let's go. You know, you're going to love doing this.
Yeah.
So I do really like that too, is finding kind of like an accountability buddy or partner.
Absolutely.
Like having somebody else, I do believe that you should show up for yourself, but having somebody else also to show up for too just adds a little bit more sweetness to it.
It does.
Yeah.
And so that being said, as to kind of wrap up a lot of this that we are discussing today, I also want to kind of know about your personal New Year's resolutions.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you'd like to
No,
so casually share.
You guys, this non-alcoholic drink is gonna be a little tipsy. I'm kidding. That face. No, I will more than happily share. The thing is also though too is I'm not a big person on resolutions because I'm always like throughout the year trying to find ways to better myself. I guess my resolution stepping forward is to remember everything that because this has been such a huge learning year for me.
Mm-hmm.
This year, definitely, I've allowed more people into my life. I've allowed myself to be more vulnerable. And I want to remember that and continue that in the future. So I think it's remembering everything that I've learned because it's so also easy to forget things that you've learned. So I just want to stay consistent with that also in the new year.
Yep.
And then I want to combine everything that I've learned with everywhere that I want to go and everything I want to accomplish. So I think my like this kind of right on paper goals for this new year is to put myself out there more, be more vulnerable, start doing things that scare me a little bit. Like I said, I want to start posting a little bit more on social media. We've talked about doing more public speaking events.
Yep.
I just want to put myself in more growth opportunities and uncomfortable situations. I obviously want to continue to making this podcast the best version that it can possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
So continue to like think creatively. I think that's it. I think it's remembering to respect everything I've learned this year, be compassionate for myself, but also continue to show up for myself in awkward situations.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, it's okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to help me with that, Matt?
Showing up in awkward situations.
You're going to be my accountability buddy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you ask me to be.
I just did.
Oh.
You guys.
I volunteer as tribute.
What's your New Year's resolution?
You nailed it pretty well in the head there, because the thing is that, in regards to this podcast, actually, I can share this.
Yes, please.
Starting in February, we are doing a newsletter.
Oh, yes, we are.
So I'm very excited about that going into this new year, because Christine and I have so many different topics that often end up actually don't even make it on air.
Completely.
And, I would say maybe only a third of our outlines, half of our outlines usually make it on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And so there's so much that we don't even get to discuss and talk about, which, if we did, each episode would easily be 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so, I think that having this newsletter is going to be a great way to take a lot of that overflow that we have and put it into words. And so people can, further extend upon a lot of the episodes and the information we talk about. And also to our guests as well can come on there and write little excerpts and and share more about their personal story
Yeah.
as well, which is really great. And also share their brands and their products. And so we're very excited about that.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also say too, is like with my personal life, you know, I am lucky enough to have an incredible boyfriend,
An incredible boyfriend.
who is just my whole world. And so I'm just so looking forward to really getting to keep expanding with him this year and going into, you know, this will be their second year together. And he's just been a wonderful human.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also something too that I've really strived so hard for this year, is to just being a better partner, you know, showing up for myself, but also showing up for the people that I care about deeply. And, you know, and so that's also another huge thing as well. I really would like to try, funny enough, this kind of the New Year's goal or New Year's resolution goal. I've always wanted to try a new sport. I've done a few of them in the past, but I've always wanted to do I don't know.
Like what?
Okay. So I've actually, you know, we talked about this. I wanted to do a triathlon because I was a swimmer for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so I've never done a triathlon before. I can sort of run.
Part of me wants to do a marathon too, but I'm like, I don't know if I like running that much.
Yeah.
But it's always been something I wanted to kind of do.
Absolutely. Because eventually the ultimate goal, right? 5 years from now, I'd love to do an Ironman. Because I've seen those, and those are like crazy. But but I have had friends who've done them, and they said it's
small.
Let's start small, right? So I would love to just start getting into some running, maybe a running club, and then also just buying a bike. I don't even own a bike, but I would love to just buy a bike and join a running club. And I'm already part of an incredible master swim program in West Hollywood. So to be able to just add all three, put it together, call it good, do a race, and set it up.
That sounds phenomenal. Well, I can't wait to support you from the sidelines with that.
Thank you.
No, that all seems very obtainable, and I cannot wait to see what the new year brings us besides all the other things we have cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
On that note then too, please share with us your New Year's resolutions.
Yeah,
any ways that you think that we can show up to better serve you guys, please, because that's what we really want to do this year, is honestly just produce the best stuff that we can just to help you guys. So anything, please reach out.
Absolutely. We are going to start Q&As next year.
Yeah. We're doing a lot of things, but once again, any ways we can show up.
We're super excited. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that with me, Matt, in this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
And our Martinellis. Yeah.
And our Martinellis, yes. On that note, then, Happy New Year's. I wish everybody nothing but the best, and I know it's going to be a prosperous year. Until next time, I love you.
Thank you so much, and keep shining your light.